that's gonna make you really successful, make your business work for you, right? Right? And not put out all these fires all the time. Cause if you're like most small businesses, if you're like me, it's all here, everything, how you do things. Even when you try to teach someone, they never really get it, okay? So we find ourselves coming back into the business. We make a little bit of progress, one step forward, we take two steps back, and our business can be very successful for us, but we work for the business, no? I mean, my business owns me, it owns me, and it is me. So this gentleman just brought up, how could I sell my business? I can't sell it on the open market because there's only a few people that really know what I do. I'm in that position myself. There's only a few people that are licensed to do what I do. They might say to me, Mark, what's your business worth? Without me? Well, I don't really know, right? If I walk away from this business, it's possible it just falls in like a house of cards. And that's a lot of us in small business. So when we talk about how do we get out of this, right? Depending on what it is, we may often favor, let's sell it to somebody else. Sell this and give me all the money now. Sell to our employees, maybe. It's great, it's wonderful, but do they have all the money now, or are they gonna go on some type of a plan, some type of a loan with us? And their ability to pay back the loan is going to depend on how well they run the business. Are they gonna run the business as well as we do? If I'm going to pass it on to a family member, right? Which I would never do with my business. I would tell my daughter, Samantha, forget it, don't be a lawyer, be any, not that it hasn't been a wonderful career, because it has. But it's not anything near what I thought it was going to be. There's been many parts of it that have been extremely rich, and I guess I wouldn't change it. Okay. But when I advise her, I say, really do try to find that thing that you love first and see if you can make it a business. Some of us, when we get into law, think, I'm gonna be a lawyer, I'm gonna be a doctor. And it doesn't really work out that way, okay? So let's get into this thing, all right? Oh, no, PDFs.
I don't know what happened.
Oh, I would love to use this. Can we use this thing, a clicker?
Put it in. Let's see if it works. I don't know if we have any more.
More places to put it?
I know, I don't know.
I think you might.
You got one place to, yeah, you do. You got one more place to put this.
Technology, anything can go wrong.
Yep, oh, it's going to.
That's fine.
I want this. Oh, okay, so you can just click forward, but the arrows, oh yeah, the arrows are working now too. But hopefully
I don't think this fits it. I think this is it.
Okay.
A
We're
different type of
using all
thing.
the ports.
All right, well,
Sorry, but it
Too
does
bad,
seem
but it
to be
does
working
with the
now.
arrows, wonderful. All right, there's me, the Mark man, 15 pounds ago. All right, so this is me. We already kind of introduced me. I've been an attorney 20 years. I'm a business owner. I've had staffs that are 2 people. I've had staffs that are 15 people, and those types of challenges that come along with everything, okay? I don't know how great I am at making deals, but we'll move on from this. All right, so here's our agenda. We're gonna identify our business. We can just raise hands, we can be silent, we can talk. You versus your role, which for me is the biggest thing. Establishing a timeline and executing your plan, okay? So let's talk about identifying what our business is and its current challenges, okay? So one of the first things we should think about when it comes to business succession planning is, you know, what type of a business do we have at the most basic level? What's the structure of our business, okay? Some of us might be sole proprietors here. Many of us might have small corporations, S corporations. I doubt there's any C corporations, but there could be. We may be a limited liability company. We may be partnered with someone or various people, and that's going to impact what our plans are, okay? So I had a partner for many years, what I was able to do with my business was going to be limited by what my partner would be in agreement with. Otherwise, I would have to have some type of buyout of that person. And if that person didn't want to be bought out, then we might have to go into some type of a litigation, which is never worth it in the law, okay? There's a reason why 98% of cases settle, and that's because the parties generally start to spend money on us. And then after a while, the bills get so high that they say, you know, I would rather just settle with this person and continue to pay Mr. White, okay? And then the other thing we have to think about is what the value of our business is, okay? So without anyone revealing anything, okay? How many people here and online have a partner? All right, I'm not gonna say how many, okay? For the rest of us, let's see. Oh, I love this. What's the structure of your business? We've got some sole proprietors, some S corps. And we can do another question that says how many people are potentially partnered, right?
So I didn't tell them in the chat, that's how many partners and that.
So
Oh, yeah.
in the situation where we have partners or multiple partners, one of the things that we do have to think about in that case is beyond just succession planning itself, beyond the long-term future is short-term future. And what could happen to the business in the event that the key person or one of the key people has a debilitating injury that doesn't allow them to go to work, right? Or gets killed, okay? Dies, gets sick, okay? So for a long time, I thought I was all set because I had life insurance. I said, okay, well, I have life insurance. If something happens to me, my wife and daughter will be fine. They get this money, all set. But then it started to creep into my mind, what if something happens to me and I don't die, right? And that's real. That happens to a lot of people. What are those contingency plans that you have as a small business owner? You're sick and out, you know? I had this sinus headache this last week, right? And my mother was a nurse, or is a nurse, but no longer is a nurse. And she made us, what do they call it, hypochondria, right? So everything I ever had. Now, I was up in Bar Harbor 2 weeks ago, studying for this class, right? And I did a little hiking. I started to get this sinus headache out of nowhere. And I started to think maybe I had contracted Lyme disease, right? Or something worse. What's wrong? Why do I feel this pressure in my head? And what creeps into your mind is, you know, it's not just I'm sick when you're a business owner. It's if I don't show up Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, it could be over, right? Forget the business. Now it's about me. How am I getting my income? So if you haven't looked into not just things like life insurance, but those types of disability life insurance that they have, and you depend on the income from your business, you should do so. That's important. We're talking about medium and long-term things now, but there are also right now things that if you don't have them in place, they can burn you. If you are partnered with someone or multiple people, and you both have management, or even if you don't have management capacities within the business, there should be a life insurance policy in place that buys off the heirs of whatever partner in that future, right? Because if I run a restaurant with my partner, I don't necessarily want to be partnered with my partner's spouse or children in the event that my partner passes away. So I have to have a mechanism in place. If I can't afford that life insurance, which happens sometimes, we get a little bit older, right? My first policy I bought when I was 29, and it was nothing, you know? Now I'm 45, so my policy is gonna cost me significantly more, and I'm not gonna be able to get it for as long as I could get the previous one. So even if I find that policy to be unaffordable, if I don't have an agreement in place with my partner, and something happens, and some type of catastrophic event occurs, now there's a confusion. My partner's no longer around, so we can't come to agreement. Now I'm dealing with the grieving family. What do I do with the income from that business in the meantime? How do I manage that? So these are things that we have to establish and put in writing. And I think what you're gonna find over the course of probably all of these seminars is the biggest thing that you could do to ensure, I don't wanna tell you you're gonna ensure success, okay? Because we're in small business, so we can't ensure success. We know that, okay? But to put yourself in the best position in every facet of this is to write it down. And that's a tough thing to do. It's a tough thing to author your training manual, right? We like to train people and everyone's unsatisfactory to us. It never works out because we can't get in here all the way into their head. Even when we do write it down. A lot of times we do it in like an outline form, and that's not digestible. Even if we get beyond the outline form, and I'm gonna show you guys something I did myself, we pass it around. I did this beautiful manual for my employees, beautiful. Took me forever, you know, now that I pick it up, print it out, I'm so proud of it. But I never took the time to really train these people after I gave it to them. I didn't test them on it. I didn't make the growth of my business through my people, my business, which is what that is. Now that we're talking about, I need this business to take care of me later. Now you have to work on that business. It's even more time as a small business owner. To put people in position, key people, to be you, oh boy, right? There can be only one. That's not necessarily true. All right, let's see if we can maybe go down, maybe go left, maybe go right.
Half the pad, maybe that space work.
Maybe the space, maybe enter? No, all right, so another thing, again, we'll get to these in the slide, but we'll also talk about value of your business and how to determine the value of your business, okay?
There we go, back to the,
You know, the approach to the value of your business, you really have to take account of it and where your business challenges and where potentially your weaknesses are. Some of us may be renting the space that we're in right now if we have a retail location, if it's not something that, a business out of our home. Some of us may own the building that we occupy, which is a really powerful thing. But if we don't, like there's many people that are in the restaurant business or in a retail store business that have a lease. And we know that a lot of our businesses, depending on how specialty it can be, depend on that location. So the value of your business can drop significantly based upon how many options to renew you have, how long that business has left. So when we're thinking about, like some people are thinking about selling our business on the open market, one of the things we really have to pay attention to is how many years left do I have on my lease here? How long can I wrap this up for? This is especially common for people that come to me in the restaurant business, right? And I love like pizza places, and I love hair salons. And the reason I do is because there's a lot of them. Whenever you see like a lot of a certain type of business, it's like you see a lot of a certain type of plant, right? You know, this is a really good plant. This plant thrives in a lot of different areas. Well, when businesses thrive in different areas, and there's a lot of them, I read that as this is a good business. I usually tell people when they come to me, you know, what I really need to put here, Mark, is this type of place because this place doesn't exist in this area. And I say, well, let's take a step back here. That might be a clue that this type of plant does not thrive in this type of area. So don't try to necessarily bring that new thing here. You may not do well. Look what's around and be complimentary. We find a lot of downtowns that have very similar businesses. If you've ever noticed, restaurants thrive where there are other restaurants. Because people in those areas like to go out to eat. People may travel to those areas to go out to eat. You look at a downtown Melrose, for example, forgetting it came in Cambridge, maybe great, beautiful. You go to a downtown Melrose versus a downtown Wakefield, one town over. Wakefield's downtown is bigger. It's got better parking, but it doesn't have all these little restaurants that Melrose has. It doesn't thrive. You see just a little bedroom community, and all of them complement each other. It's a good place for it. Anyway, moving on, okay? So what are common challenges for similar types of businesses? Okay, this is what I can tell you. Small workforce. Anybody have issues with employees? training, retaining, getting people to buy in. Especially with, again, I'm getting older, this younger generation of people, they don't seem to want to. I could be wrong, but it has not been my experience, even with the lawyers, okay? Oh, this is coming up. Cash flow problems.
Oh,
I think that's always an issue for us in small businesses, because a lot of times we're looking at our reserves. There's a certain amount of money that we always want to see in the bank account. And when it gets lower than that amount, we kind of feel like we're choking a little bit. At least this is how I've operated a lot of time in my career, okay? So that can prevent us from looking at the business, like maybe what it should be in terms of something that takes care of us in the future, okay? Usually we should be looking at our business not just as a job, but as something that generates capital for us to potentially create some passive income from us in the future from something that's not the business, okay? But again, as small business owners, oh, I see. Lovely, okay? Other things, limited funding opportunities, potentially, depending on the type of business you are. I think sometimes we don't look at all the opportunities that may be out there for us. The SBA in particular, especially when we're looking to perhaps purchase an area that we're gonna house our business in, there's a lot of really great programs that they have through many lenders. Difficulties in managing business complexity. Yeah, I'd say so. I'd say the big difficulty here, and you guys let me know either online or here, anonymously, is, it's time. And I talked about that at the very beginning. It's that big project time. It's that thing you want to do. I could just do this, and get away from the minutia of every single day. But those days just burn right by. And again, week after week, you want to do better online marketing. You want to be more involved with the community. You want to be opening up another store. Okay, want to buy your place, great. But that week to week to week grind can get you. And it's tiring, I think as business owners, we take a lot less vacations than anybody else. I think as business owners, we've forgotten what like a long weekend work is, So people got a job and they say, oh man, I put in a lot of hours this week. You know what I'm saying? And we have lost that perspective. Wow. This business takes over your life, it can. So you're putting in 60 plus every week. Maybe you get a day, maybe there's a day, maybe, depending on the type of business you are. For me, it's Sunday, that's the day. Everything's gotta stop and I get mad when clients call me on a Sunday. Yeah. But other than that, I have to do it, and I'm doing it for me, I'm doing it for my family. I'm sure all of you are doing that as well, okay? And I'll say another thing in here, access to consultants, I have found also to be a great challenge for a small business person. It feels like they're for businesses bigger than ours. I don't have the money, I don't have the time, my business is simple, it's not that big of a deal. You wouldn't get it, we think it's just, maybe we think we did it wrong, so no one would understand. But all of us are generally doing it the same way and dealing with those same very practical challenges. I don't know if it just doesn't like me.
It's not working.
Do I click it? And
There
then-
you go.
All right. So let's talk about current challenges. Key people inside, outside of your organization. Okay, I'm gonna guess because again, I want to, even within the room, forget the raising hands. One thing that's can be tough for us is talent retention, we can find the people to maybe take over the business for us. I can tell you in my own particular business, and again, I say that because, this is where I have my most expertise in my own life. It's tough to find somebody that you're gonna train up and make you and not have the worry that they're not gonna just pick up and leave and become your competitor. And that's not uncommon, okay? It's not uncommon in a lot of consulting businesses. It's certainly not uncommon in professional, and in the trades. You're giving them everything with the hope that they're going to assist you and they're going to become part of your organization. And the question really is, how do we plan to make them part of the organization and not just give them as much as they get before they say, hey, because people, when they see you owning a business, they think you're rich, right? They think you got tons of money because they don't know how businesses work. You know, I think when you own a business like this, you kind of look at other businesses that are more established, you know, in one way or another. That business that you think is doing so well is kind of a house of cards. And I can tell you because I've got my own and I can tell you how it works. But again, when it comes to employees, depending on the person, and I would say it's probably the toughest thing, that human resource, right? To find the right person and to be able to plan out a future for that is in concert with what you want, which again, if you're here or you're there, is to be able to step away from it. Live, I don't know, yeah, would be nice. So let's take a look. All right, so things that we're talking about. Common considerations first here. Company structures. It says sold, it says sale. We're thinking sell, so let's keep it that way. Unincorporated partnerships, small corps, limited liability companies. We're thinking about partners. We've talked about operating agreements. Buyouts, a little bit, we touched on life and disability insurance. Again, this is kind of a topical, you know, what's the word? It's a high level, Jose, high level. I don't know. The other thing that we consider is, again, I just touched on it for a second, the value of the business. How do we value this business? For those of us that want to sell this business, what's it worth? Most common answer, I don't know, right? Oh. It's your life. What's it worth? What would somebody buy it for? What would you buy it for, knowing everything that you know? Is it something that works for you, or is it a yoke? Okay, so the asset approach, we're gonna look at the assets that a business has, okay? So if you own the place that you're in, way better, right? If you don't, then there's a little bit of weakness there, but it's gonna depend on what type of a lease you have, how long it's for. Do you have a right of first refusal? Do you have an option to buy? Market approach is gonna be based on, you know, what somebody in the market would purchase a similar business for. Now, small businesses, I can tell you, are difficult to value. It's difficult to set a value because they're so personal, and again, we have to compare them with like businesses of the same size. But again, they get put on the market, we'd see who would pay what for what. Most times, people that are buying in a market approach are looking at the income of the business, okay? Whether it be a restaurant, retail, they're just gonna look at it and say, okay, how much money does it make? Because they're investing in that opportunity, that business opportunity there. And if the money's pretty good, there's gonna be a temptation on your end to keep it, okay? Industry-specific challenges. These are things like, you know, the role technology has in what we do, okay? So depending on what the service, I can tell you, for example, my industry, we are gonna have a problem if we're lawyers. Because just the advent of artificial intelligence being in the market is changing this. We're in a very, very early stage. And we can put something online and say, look up the law in Massachusetts about this type of a situation. And maybe it's not exactly right yet, but it'll get there. On Sunday, speaking about artificial intelligence, my friend showed me this online AI that you can write a song with. Right? And you just tell them what the song's about. You say, well, you know, there's a dozen people in a nice room in Cambridge listening to a boring guy talk in the style of Jim Croce. right? And this thing in 2 minutes has a minute-long song for you about it. And it's new and it's real and it's there. So, you know, the capacity that will have in all industries that have to do with information in the next 5 to 10 years is, I mean, the sky is the limit, which is gonna eliminate people's jobs. You won't need me for a will. Write me a will. These are the, you'll be able to put it in that complies with Massachusetts law and that will be accepted in the Suffolk County Probate Court. And it'll come out. So there's $2,000 out of my pocket, right? We gotta think about those things. And those can affect the value of your business, okay? Company-specific challenges, things that we have to confront. These are the things we gotta write down. These are the weekend warrior things. These are the, I've given my whole life to this business thing and now it wants more to get me out. But if we don't do it, we'll end up like a lot of my older friend attorneys. 75, 80 years old, still work. And you know what I said, for all these years, at least 15 of my 20s, I'm not gonna end up like that guy working. And I guarantee you, all of those guys said that about another guy. And here I am, marching my way there. Why? Because every week I put out fires, all week. And next week, I'm gonna get to the big stuff. Until next week, right? All right, so personnel, this is an important thing for us. We want to identify our key positions, and I bet you that your key position in the business is probably you. So we gotta identify that key position, and we gotta write down what it is and who you are, okay? I'll pass this thing around the room while we do this next. You just flip through it, okay? This was something that took me, I don't know, maybe a month to write. Now, part of what we do at my office, one of the departments has to do with real estate. We had to use a particular program. And not just use the program, but we also had to get certain documents from cities, from other attorneys. We had to get things from real estate agents and loan officers and all these things, right? And there's a protocol to do. I sat down and wrote this all out with diagrams, with pictures, exactly where you had to. I was so proud of it. But what I didn't do was really go through it with my employees. What I didn't do was turn it into a video that I could have taped on my phone. I didn't test them on it. Because I didn't put enough time into it to really make it work for me. I went 30%, 40%, 50% of the way there to reach the goal. It's like when you're working out, right? For like a month. And you're 1/3 of the way there and you're seeing, but then you're tired, right? And you go over to, I went over to this place today. I was looking great about 3 months ago. You go over to one of these chocolate chip places, on Cambridge Street, right? And you say, well, I worked out and it didn't work. Well, the truth is, it's all that consistency with time. You have to keep going that extra mile. So because I did this, that was great. It was great first step. But this first step, you know how many people in my organization followed this? 0. The guy that worked with me for 20 years said to me today, he said, no, only 2 of us did, you and me. But that's not true. He and I didn't need it. That is he and I. That's a representation of how I do that work. And instead of even giving it out, instead of teaching it, I handed it around to a bunch of people, expected them to read it. I never tested them on it. I never built up that culture of this is how we do things. And so they failed. So who really failed, the students or the teacher? When I went to school, they tested me. And if I wasn't going to be tested on the subject, I wasn't going to read about it. And that's what we have to do. If you're really serious about it, especially the people say, I want to sell to my employees, or I want my family members to take this over for me. Well, if you don't want that business to fail, which your income will depend upon, depending on whether you do some type of a private annuity, you do some type of installment agreement or a lease with those people. Well, if they don't know how to do the business just like you do, well, that's your whole name, right? You got customers, right? They ask for you, right? They like the way you do it. That's me. I can have other attorneys working for me, and they say, but can you do this one, Mark? Well, that means I'm not doing my job. Investing in those other people that are my key people. All right. So, to the same point, major challenges for small businesses, distinguish between yourself and your role at the company. So one of the first things that we have to do, if we haven't done it already, is we really have to sit down and write down what we do, what we really do, not an outline. You can start with an outline. But then you gotta write the book, at least the chapter, about everything that you do, and write it to yourself. This is how to be me. You know, when we do wills for people, we tell them that too, especially wills for people that have kids. They say, well, you know, I wanna write my will, and you know, if I die, then my sister-in-law will take care of it. Okay. And my sister-in-law's name is whatever. Okay. But nowhere in the wills do we write down what medication the kid takes, where they go to school, what they like to do, what your plans are. How are you gonna be me? How are you gonna replace me? You gotta have that conversation with yourself, you gotta write it down. It takes a while. But if you do it and are serious about it, it'll work. But don't make the mistake that I made. Just, I wrote it down, but I never really published it, right? Well, there's my manuscript, and it'll go unread. And until I get serious as well about when I want to leave my firm and how I do things. And that goes right down to, as you all know, the little things. How you speak to your clients, right? How you pick up the phone. How we greet people. All those things are really important to the business. Those are the relationships we maintain. When we have repeat customers, those are all relationships that we have with those customers. People tend to think everything's a one-off. It's not. You know, these people, they bring more people to you. Those relationships are so important. That's how we thrive. But if you don't pass that on in a way that's not angry, you know, start not to be angry when somebody does that. You have to do it in a way that makes them feel like, okay, this is how we do. That's that value add, that's that mission statement, you know? And as a small business, it's tough to think corporate talk. But there are messages in there that apply to us. And the thing is, look, if I'm the business and I have to learn how to replicate and duplicate me in a way that other people want to absorb that and be that too, okay? So it doesn't work if just you are the business. But if you are the business, you have to make the business you. Understand the difference? All right. So, continuing on this, okay? Here's what we're talking about. Clear role definitions. Finding weak spots, including your own weak spots. And maybe there are things you're just not good at, right? There's plenty of things I'm not good at. I think, I'm not sure. There must be some things I'm not good at. Training new leaders and putting the time into training. Easy changes? I don't know if there are any changes. But not depending too much on one person is important. It's gonna be tough. You might find those key people, but even those key people, you have to turn into those key positions. But you know, as long as we're employing people, we are gonna find people that are important to us that the business is not going to be able to move along at the same pace, okay? So if you find that person that can help you, that's a diamond. And you gotta do the best you can to hold on to those people and show them a future, and that may be part of that succession plan, okay? And keep what's important, okay? So cut out the fat if you can, if there is any. I don't know how many of you in the involvement with your business are really looking at the numbers as much as you should. If you're not, you should have somebody that can really look at your numbers. And I don't mean just saving money, right? That's important, right? You keep what you save, not necessarily what you make. But what are you doing with those profits to turn them into something that takes care of you? Or are you just going to make more next month? Because we will run out of time. So if you're looking at that good profit margin, you're also making part of your goal I wanna have this placed into this type of a fund, I wanna make this type of investment, whether it be in real estate, whether it be in the stock market or whatever. These are the things that are gonna take care of. And in that sense, as a capital generator, that business is gonna work great for you. But that's really what we should have had in mind from the beginning. And it's wonderful to work for yourself. I love working for myself. I don't like having a boss. Ever. But you also have to look out and say, okay, so this is my projected profit and this is where it's going. And then X amount of years from now, I'm in a position where I have passive income. So if I've done that, irrespective of what happens with the business, I've created my plan to take care of me as I'm older, which is really the point of what we're doing here, okay? All right, so talking about establishing a timeline, right? Everything's time. How long do you have left? Oof. I won't ask anyone in the room. But, you know, it seems like I've got less left every day, but actually that is the case. Everybody gets it. But you have to establish it. I got this many years left. Now, some of the things that we brought up in the packet too are important, right? And one of the things that get brought up in the packet is, well, what's gonna be my health at whatever date, at whatever age? But the interesting thing about that too is we don't know what could happen to our health at any time, which again, I'll take us back to about 20 minutes ago. Remember that insurance component, and we don't know what could happen to us. It's not just health insurance, it's income insurance. So if I depend on me, I gotta make sure that I got something else if I can't depend on me, okay? Identifying our successor.
We have a poll.
Oh, we got a poll. Oh, all right.
You can also raise your hands in person.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be.
I just am fascinated
Totally
by the
anonymous.
way the poll, I feel like I'm watching the election.
I know, it's really cool. Yeah, so I guess, show of hands if you are in the 1 to 4 year category. 5 to 10? Anyone longer than 5 to 10 in the room? Okay.
Right, so again, we have a really good, mix of our timeline. Different timelines, totally different approaches, okay? If I'm in a situation where I'm 1 to 5 years on moving on from this business, probably the biggest option for me is the outright sale, okay? Unless I've already identified somebody and brought them along. And again, it depends heavily on what type of business it is. That's gonna be, you know, my out strategy. So now I have to really take a look at my valuation. I have to put myself in position for that sale. Once we get beyond that 5-year point, we're you know, we probably can start to consider more selling to our employees, potentially leaving to a family member, okay? Now, one of the things that we'll say, with both of those is this. In doing so, if you're not gonna do an outright sale, in most situations, you are going to rely on those people's continued successful running of the business in order to receive the value. Because whether we're gonna do an installment payment or an annuity, right? So there's different ways we can do it. We can put the property, for example, into some type of a trust, we have a beneficial interest. There's a million different ways, I don't wanna say a million, but maybe there's, you know, a few dozen different ways that we can fashion something where an owner continues to receive a benefit after relinquishing control, okay? Now, there are tax consequences for someone. Sometimes we wanna give a gift, right? Now, the good thing about Massachusetts is Massachusetts doesn't have a gift tax, but the feds do. The feds have a limit on how much you can gift in a particular year. The IRS is gonna take a look at whether or not you've ceded sufficient control. So there's I think right now, the lifetime gift limit is $11.7 million. But per year, it's 18 grand. So if you start to say, well, look, I'm gonna leave this to my children, great. You gotta start sending some, you know, you gotta start issuing some shares and putting them in trust. every year so that you can fall into that exception, okay? Because the IRS will go after them. Big one is how long it takes a successor, and this is the big word, to succeed, right? And not just to succeed me, but to succeed in the actual business. Probably what you've done is, it's like a real, you know, whatever business it is, you've been in it long enough, you're like an artisan. You know, it's so tough to get to that point where you have, those, I guess, learned instincts within the business on how things are done. You know, you're a master of that business. So how long will it take? Well, in many of our cases, you know, we didn't have someone train us, right? We kind of, maybe we had a mentor, but we came up through the hard knocks, so we had to, you know, learn on our own. We created our own style. And obviously over the years it proved successful. But again, you have to write down what it is in detail. And you have to work on your training in detail. Taking by the hand, I want you to follow me around and learn, you know, you're gonna learn by osmosis. It doesn't work in most cases. It frustrates that person, especially if it's a family member, or perhaps it's a friend that's taking over the business. Those relationships can get really frayed within the realm of a business. You may have multiple children, for example, and one of them wants to take over the business and the others do not. And all of the value that you have is within that business. So all of the estate, we call it, is in the business. So how do I equally divide my assets to my children if only one of them is taking over the business? What do I do without causing friction? Now, I can issue stock, I can do like voting stock, so you have the controlling stock and you have non-voting stock. But I also have to think about the practicality, right? So it's like, look, I'm gonna give you my stuff when I die, whatever. All right, you need stuff. But what happens when you're not around? That's gonna cause friction between the same children that you were trying to take care of. And the most important thing is the relationship between the children, even beyond the business, okay? So don't create a situation within your family that's gonna cause friction because your children don't like the way one of the other children is running the business. So that's something that you have to have serious consideration for, and that's a personal thing, you know, that's a family dynamics thing, and you may not run into that issue. Okay, that may be something that everybody respects, and that, you know, the non-voting children get regular dividends based upon the company. You have to sit down, but again, it's not just about the money there. It's about your family, whether it's I'm leaving it when I pass away to my children, or I'm making a lifetime transfer right now, and whatever child is taking over, and I want the others to receive this when I'm gone, or whatever way it works, you know, it's going to be financially an interesting dynamic depending on when it occurs, okay? And then monetizing your succession, I kind of already talked about it a little bit, but, you know, it's gonna depend on how you do it. The outright sale is, I don't wanna say it's the best, because it doesn't have to be the best. You could make way more money off of your business, just taking a step back and having someone else take over it. But again, they have to be able to do it in a way that's either as good, or maybe, who knows, maybe better, right? And the different ways you can do it depends on the, you know, the different successor types, you know, that family member type or those employees, even a third party. There's many businesses that third party wants to purchase from you, and they do not have all the money to purchase it from you. So you have to take back a note, and you have to take back a secured interest in it, which is tough. Because when we take back a secured interest, right, whether it be through a mortgage or just a regular financing security, in the event that they stop paying, what's our recourse? We gotta go back, take it back, get back in it, you know? Which is maybe something we don't wanna do. We may wanna take a security in something else they have. They may wanna buy our business and they give us a mortgage on their house. That's terrible. You know, I don't wanna foreclose on somebody's house, but I don't wanna go back in that business either. So be very wary of that arrangement you get into if there is some type of an installment payment to you. If it seems too good to be true, think about that. You know the business better than the person that's coming into it. Irrespective of however brash and boastful they may be. If you don't think they can make those payments, they probably can't. Now, I was in a situation very recently where someone wanted to take over my office. They said, well, we'll do this and we're gonna do this, and I was gonna move to a smaller office. And it seemed great. I mean, I was doing great. But as I examined this firm, I started to realize that they were biting off more than they could chew. And even though they wanted to commit to me for this certain amount of payments over a certain amount of years, I knew they couldn't make them. So what position was I going to be in 2 years down the line when I was depending on their payments and I knew they were likely to fail because they were, so I didn't do the deal. Even though on paper it was great, what would the paper matter to me if I had to sue them for the money? When the truth is, I know the cost of suing people for money. It's not worth it. It's never worth it. If you've ever been to court, you know, once you're in there for a while, you say, this is awful. This is taking so long and costing so much money. We seem to think we're gonna walk into court and walk out with a check. But it doesn't work that way at all, which is why we have to make decisions to prevent those things. Too many people walk into my office as an attorney, asking me to fix things for them that are already broken. It's the first time they've ever come to an attorney when they have a problem. Or go to a consultant, financial planner, lawyer, before you do things. And you're gonna prevent that, you know, what is it, an ounce of prevention? A pound of cure or something like that? I don't know if that's the same measurement, something like that, right? All right. Let's keep it going. Oh,
We are gonna, take a break shortly and we'll talk about you guys.
yeah. All right, we taking our break now and we're doing our,
Is this a good spot?
I think probably, you
Yes?
guys are probably tired of me for the moment.
Yeah?
Yeah,
For a few, then you still have more.
and then we'll go back.
One more? Okay, let's, 5 minutes? Sounds good. Bathrooms are across the hall, water fountains are across the hall. Let's get back before 7:20.
See what's on the street. There's some nice places.
Okay,
And we're back.
now we're good.
Having a good time. All right, so executing the plan, okay? A couple of slides left here. So to recap, the big important thing is to write down a plan, write down who you are, okay? If you're really serious about it, if you're really serious about detaching and having the business work for you, identify the business, okay? Put down the instruction manual for yourself to be you within the business. It puts you in a better position, okay? We're gonna talk about your timeline that we're gonna do during the activity. We're gonna think about, and we've talked about the types of transitions we're doing, okay? Are we giving it away to the kids? Are we selling it? Are we keeping it in some way so that it pays us like a private annuity, that it pay us on a monthly, quarterly, yearly basis so that we can use that money and benefit from all the hard work that we put into our business. Training and replacement. Establishing roles and responsibilities within the position and company, all boils back down to the number one. You gotta write it down. You have to author who you are in that business if you're serious about it, okay? Otherwise, you're gonna end up like me, working till I'm Monday. Identifying the key people outside of the organization. Those can be big, the people we depend on, right? Identifying that outside bookkeeper, that outside tax advisor, that outside attorney, right? That know the business and that can carry on in those advisory roles when you're gone. Maybe you can even consult with them and say, hey, Mark, what's going on here? Now, depending on the confidentiality rules, which I know we respect, I may or may not be able to tell you. You may want to work that into your succession agreement. All right? And then the financial aspects, okay? Are we selling it? How are we selling it? Again, I keep going over the same thing, that outright sale, that annuity style or installment sale. Is that person or is that entity liquid enough to really take you over? Now, we love to get that total lump sum payment, right? That's why we take the lump sum payment when we win the mega bucks and not the installment payment. But if we have to, there's ways to fashion it. If it's to family members, there's ways to fashion it where, depending on what you want to do, it either, for example, sometimes what we'll do is we'll do a loan to our family members. The business is worth $200,000 and they're gonna pay us $50,000 and then the other $150,000 in a note, okay? In order for it to not be taxed as a gift, the note has to go with the current interest rate, this one, okay? The other thing we can do is like a fixed term or annuity where it pays us over a certain amount of time, or one that's not a fixed term and that pays us until we die. But if we die before the loan is paid, the loan gets put into our estate, okay? And another thing that you'll want to think about with family members is estate taxes and the size of your estate, those types of things. So sometimes we'll do moves through trusts or through corporate succession that will avoid that, okay? Which is a lot of times what we want to do is avoid having too much money in our estate, especially if we're concerned about any type of long-term care in the future, okay? But again, that's almost another matter. Okay? So we'll continue. All right.